Hi, I'm KK and today we're gonna talk about Never Let Me Go. But before we come to an actual video, I want to give you a little disclaimer. This video is gonna have spoilers because I just want to share my thoughts and opinions about this drama. Now when you already know this, then we can come to an actual video. This drama has one season with 12 episodes, and this is a story about two teenagers, Nueng and Palm. Nueng is a heir of a very rich family, and recently he lost his dad in a horrible incident, and since then he and his mom need to live in constant fear of their life. And okay, Nueng's father had a friend, and this friend now is working with Nueng's mom, and he's introducing his son, who is Palm, to Nueng's mom, and he offered that he can be Nueng's bodyguard. And this is the start of all events actually in this drama. And this is a very heartbreaking story about two teenagers who need to deal with stuff which they should never ever experience and fight for their life. But on the same time, this is a beautiful story of teenage love, about growing up and about many other different things. And I know that from this description it can sound a little bit boring and you can say that, oh, but there's so many that kind of stories. And yeah, I can partly agree, but this production was really well made and I love it so much and I definitely recommend it so much. And if you didn't watch it yet, then seriously go and watch because this is definitely worth it. But be ready for a whole variety of emotions, because one thing what I can say, and everyone who watched this probably also can say this, that it was a very emotional show. I was watching My School President on the same time, and I remember that it was so weird for me when I realized that teenage characters there and here, they're all exactly the same age. And this is so crazy how different your life could be based on your environment, your situation in home, and you know, everything what you're going through. And after realizing this story was even more heartbreaking for me. And this is definitely another work of art under GMMTV, and coloring, light, music, camera work, all those factors created a piece of art actually. And they created very specific vibe because it was very calm, relaxed, but at the same time very sad, and story itself was very heartbreaking. And okay, if you ever played in any Life is Strange game, then this is a very similar story actually, that you can relax during watching this and you can feel a huge connection with those characters and you can be very into this, but at the same time story itself is very heartbreaking. And also, if you watched Not Me, then music is very similar here, so I'm pretty sure that you will like music. And yeah, music was just amazing here. And well, this is that kind of story which, even if I watched it almost a year ago, and yes, I'm super fast with creating this video, but yeah, I watched this drama almost a year ago, but still I have it somewhere in the back of my head, and from time to time I keep thinking about those characters. I want to come back to this universe and, you know, meet those characters again. And I have very similar feelings towards Thousand Stars, Moonlight Chicken, Not Me, and vice versa. And this drama is somehow connected and similar to all of them. I can explain it, but maybe the vibe, or seriously, I have no idea how to explain it, but all of them are somehow similar, and definitely Never Let Me Go is on the same level as those dramas. And this is definitely another diamond in GMMTV collection, right after 10 Years Decade, The Eclipse, and all those dramas that I already mentioned. And all of them setting bar really high, and because of this I have huge expectations toward their future dramas. And like I said already, light and coloring was very important in this drama, and they use it in such a wise way to create a mood and made everything even easier for us to understand. And this is that kind of drama when you can feel like you're really the part of the story, and like you know those characters, you can really care about them and feel connected with them. And because of this is a huge advantage actually, at least for me, because you know, when they're happy, you're happy. When they're sad or terrified, you also feel this. So this is amazing, but on the same time, because of this, it was sometimes a little bit hard for me to watch, especially few scenes in this drama. And this drama definitely deserves to be more popular and more well known because this is such a good production. Yes, it's hard to watch many times and it's very heartbreaking, but this is a really good show. And it was that kind of show for me that I cried a lot. And not only in bad moments or, you know, sad ones or when I was scared even, but also in the good ones. Because, you know, it wasn't so often here that they were finally happy or they have some peace finally. And every single time when it happened, I also cried from happiness probably. But yeah, I definitely cried a lot during this drama. And again, like I said already, if you didn't watch it yet, then seriously go and watch because this is definitely worth it. And okay, now I think we can come to spoiler part, and maybe let's start from Palm because for some reason I don't have much to say about him. I mean, only about him without Nueng. And one thing which I definitely fully agree is that he's pretty known as one of the biggest green flag, and I totally support this opinion because he had so many great personal traits. He was calm, he was very patient, and he was in general such a good character. And I really like that he always thought about Nueng, he always wanted the best for him, and that he treated Nueng as the most important person in the world. But on the same time, it was sad for me that he really often, because of this, he forgetting about himself and his own good. And okay, just to be clear, that kind of love that he had for Nueng is not bad, but even in that kind of love, I think we should find this place for love ourselves, and then everything will be fine. And this is what I mean, and that's why I think that Palm just need to work a little bit on this. But except this, he was amazing. And one of the biggest advantage for me when it comes to this character was that he asked before he kissed Nueng, and me, as a fan of constant kisses, I was super happy. And every single time when it's happening in any production, I just need to talk about this. I'm sorry, but this is great, and I would be super happy if it will be more popular. And also something which I just love, it happened in the last episode, but maybe even in the last scene. Yeah, I guess it was in the last scene, but I just love that Palm was that kind of boyfriend that he didn't want to stop Nueng from achieving his dream. He supported him in this, and he wanted Nueng to go abroad and, you know, do everything what he always wanted. He didn't want to stop him from this, but he supported him. And yeah, like I said, Palm was a great person, and we definitely need more that kind of characters and also that kind of people in real life. And then world would be definitely a little bit better place. Okay, now let's talk about Nueng, and he was actually my second favorite character here because first one was definitely Chopper, and I will say a lot about him later, but now let's focus on Nueng. His story was very heartbreaking for me, and I'm really curious if he was already... because okay, in the moment when we met Nueng, it was after this incident with his dad, and through whole the story we see him as very reserved person, very sad and depressed one actually, and he always have those sad eyes even before all of this were happened in this drama actually happened. So I'm really curious if he already was like this before this incident, because I feel like he was like this, which make it even more heartbreaking. But yeah, I'm really curious what kind of person he was before. But based on what they showed about him, then I feel like, yeah, he already was very lonely and sad teenager, unfortunately. And Phuwin did such a great job portraying this character. And okay, maybe this is brave to say, but I think that Nueng was written for Phuwin. And seriously, this character was very hard and challenging to play actually. It had many layers, and actor who played this character need to be good with showing a whole variety of emotions, and you know, he need to act with his eyes a lot and with his facial expression. And yeah, like I said, he was a perfect choice, and I'm really happy that Phuwin finally get a chance to show how good actor he is, and still I'm really impressed how well he played Nueng. And one of the most heartbreaking thing when it comes to Nueng was that, you know, he was in that kind of age when you really need a friend or friends, fall in love, and, you know, experience all those typical teenage experiences just to grow up healthy. And okay, just to be clear, if someone doesn't want to have friends and prefer to be alone, that's completely fine. But most of people, and I would even say that majority, want to have a friend, want to fall in love and that kind of stuff. Both those situations are completely fine. But Nueng was that kind of person who really wanted to have a friend, hanging out with friends, have a boyfriend, girlfriend, wherever. He wanted to fall in love, and he wanted to experience all those things. But it was really sad for me that no one even tried to be friends with him. And it's not like he was mean or rude or something for them. He was just shy and introverted, which is completely fine. This is not something bad. And that's really hard for me that his only friend was Chopper, who was his cousin. And okay, just to be clear, I'm happy that they were friends, but that he didn't have anyone except his family. And in many scenes we could see how huge damage it did to him, and the way how he saw himself and how low self-esteem he had. All of this was because he didn't even have a chance to have those experiences. And yeah, that was one of the most heartbreaking things for me when it comes to this character. And I remember that I have seen so many comments that people were mad at Nueng and they said that he's so terrible for Palm, especially in the beginning. And I don't agree with them, actually. Since the beginning, I think it was very understandable why Nueng behaved like this. First of all, I will repeat it many times because this is very important for these characters. They were still teenagers and they had all rights to didn't know how to behave and how to deal with different situations. Especially that they need to go through something which even for adults will be hard to deal with. So I'm not surprised that he behaved like this. And yes, I agree he was rude and very mean at the beginning, but I think that it was just his mask because he didn't want to get close to anyone. And also, from what we know, he never had a friend except Chopper, but he was his cousin, and it was different. But he never had a friend, so he probably didn't even know how it is to have a friend and how to deal with it, how even start to approach Palm. But we could see that he was very excited when he saw that someone in his age will spend a lot of time with him. And when he saw that during the first day when Palm started to get to their school, he already gets some friend, and we could see that Nueng was very sad about it because he probably thought that when finally someone around his age, actually in his age, is in his life, then maybe they will be friends. But maybe after this he thought that it's not even possible for them anymore. I don't know, I'm just guessing, okay, based on his behavior. And also, just to be clear, I'm not expecting from Palm that he would understand Nueng or he even want to understand him. He doesn't need to, and I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't even want to spend any time with Nueng more than it was needed. That would be totally understandable, but I'm saying this from our perspective as watchers because we knew more and we saw more. But yeah, I'm not taking sides here, I'm not blaming any one of them. I tried to see both perspectives and I really wanted to understand both of them, and actually their behavior was very understandable for me. And also I think that maybe Nueng tried to show the worst part of himself and the worst version to Palm, because maybe he thought that if Palm is gonna stand that kind of him, then maybe he will stand normal Nueng. I'm just guessing, but maybe it was some kind of test. I don't know. And it was actually pretty cute when he tried to approach Palm in the beginning. And yes, I agree, he was doing this in totally wrong way. And he keep ordering Palm and keep picking on him. But I like to see how much effort he put in this. And for example, the scene when he asked Palm to sit with him and eat breakfast with him, he was so happy that he finally can just do normal thing like other people in his age do, because this is what he wanted. And I know that his parents take care about him so much and they love him so much, but they kind of created a golden cage for him, which was very sad. And I know that they didn't want to do this, but yeah, unfortunately it ended like this. And he just wanted to be seen like everyone else, not as some super privileged person. He just wanted to spend time like any other teenagers. And I was so mad at Palm's father in the scene that he created such a huge mess from this when they were actually just talking and eating, and that's it. It wasn't anything bad, and he behaved like Nueng and Palm did something bad. And you could see how Palm was very confused and Nueng was just sad, which was, yeah, again, heartbreaking. And the scene when Nueng was talking with Palm after he kissed Ben was another very sad scene for me, and the way how Nueng behaved, and he was so panicked that he will lost what he had with Palm. And like I said, he never had friend before, so he was probably very anxious about the relation and what they had, and he didn't want to lose it. And maybe he thought that even the smallest mistake can destroy everything. And yes, I agree, he was pretty mean in the scene, but again, I think that it was his mask and he put this on to not show that someone is hurting him. And again, I'm not blaming Palm. He had no idea how Nueng actually felt, and that was completely normal. He doesn't need to know. And also, I totally understand why he behaved like this, because for him also it was her situation, and I also felt sorry for him. So again, I'm not taking sides, I understand both of them, but I'm saying this from us as watchers' perspective, okay? And also when it comes to Nueng and Ben, I think that Ben was that kind of part of Nueng's life that it gave him a piece of normality. He wasn't from his family, he wasn't Palm who was his bodyguard, he was someone totally from outside, and it was maybe this part for Nueng that he finally felt like a typical teenager and, you know, got those experiences. And he was so panicked that Palm can say about it to his mother, his father, or whoever, and maybe he even want to keep this totally for himself, which again was totally understandable. And yes, Nueng had many problems with himself, and he was a very complicated character, but no matter what, nothing can justify what he had done to Palm in this party in Mackie place. It was just unacceptable, and it should never happen. And he humiliated Palm, he said terrible stuff to him, and he treated him like a trash. And like I said, there were so many moments in this drama that I totally understand Nueng, and I think that people were a little bit too harsh to him in comments and in general how people perceive him. But in this situation, I also was really mad at him, and I don't even want to try to justify him because there's no explanation for that kind of behavior. It was just bad, and he had no rights to behave like this. And this whole scene was very sad for me because first of all, I was so mad at Nueng. I felt so sorry for Palm, and also later Palm got beaten so badly, and it was really hard for me to see how much both of them suffered at the end of the scene. And no matter what, they were victims in this situation. And you know, Nueng just bumped into this guy, which is so normal, especially on parties. And no matter what, those idiots had no rights to beat Nueng and Palm. There's no explanation for this again, and I really don't get it why in that kind of situation people are not even trying to stop that kind of idiots. They just standing there and looking at it, which is just crazy for me. And after this, Palm's father even hit him. What's wrong with him? And how he could be so mad on his own son when he could actually die there. And seriously, since the beginning, this guy was such a bad parent for me, because what kind of normal parent put his own kid in such a danger and actually put him in the situation when he can. This is so bad, and seriously, this guy should never ever be parent. And he was so mad at Palm that he didn't protect Nueng when he actually was doing this. Seriously, I was so mad at him. And okay, if he wants to feel like a worse kind of human being who owns something to Nueng's family, fine. That's completely his business, and it wasn't Palm's business. And he should never ever put in Palm's head that kind of idea that some stranger kid, I mean Nueng, was more important for him than his own kid. This is crazy. And yeah, another parent of the year. And I was really shocked how understanding Palm was for Nueng. And when he was talking with Mackie after this, he tried to look at the situation from Nueng's perspective, and he didn't even was mad at him, even if he had all rights to feel that way. But yeah, that was really impressive, and even many adult people can do something like this. So yeah, this is another reason why Palm was such a big green flag. And in general, I really like this conversation between Mackie and Palm, because she said few very important things there, which I think Palm needed to hear. Even if he didn't listen to her, then still I think they were important. First one was that Nueng wasn't owner of Palm's life. That was very important because Palm, because of his father probably, had problem with understanding this. And also another thing was that Palm really should start to think about himself, at least sometimes, because it would be just better for him and for his mental health. And there was this one scene when Palm and Nueng were on the roof, and it was after this whole situation with Ben. And every single time when I see this scene, or when I even think about it, I want to cry so much, because it was probably one of the most devastating moments in this drama for me, because the way how devastated Nueng was, and those words when he said that no one wanted to be with him and no one even wanted to be around him, really broke my heart, because no one ever should feel that way, especially such a young person. Because even for an adult person, something like this, when they start to think that way, it's really hard to deal with. And again, no one should ever feel like this. But Nueng was so young, and it was so heartbreaking for me that his first experiences with friendship, with love, and that way, and just to be clear, I'm not blaming Ben here, I will talk about him later, but it was really hard for me in how bad condition Nueng was after this. And it was so terrible that his parents take all his happiness away from him, and when he finally had a friend, first time in his life, that they literally ripped this away from him. It was so unfair, and it was horrible. And the worst part is that every single time when I see such a young people who are already so bad and who's doing such a terrible thing, it's so unfair for me and so disgusting, because really often they take this from their home, from different reasons, and from their environment. And this is terrible for me every single time when I see something like this, that those people didn't even start their adulthood and that they already start to be so bad. And this is the time when you still can show them that they're wrong, but the worst that is that that kind of people can get even worse and worse in the future, and this is terrifying. And Nueng was very pure and that kind of person who see good in other people, and this is a great personal trait. And this is sad that our society is so cruel that really often we taking that shine from those people away from them, and that at some point they started to feel like Nueng, that they mad at themselves, that they open for someone, and they start to think that everyone is bad and world is cruel and that kind of stuff. And yes, world is cruel, but without that kind of people, oh my god, we will have hell in this earth. So that kind of people are so important, and we should give them space to share their work with others and their love, and show them that there's nothing bad with being like this. And I was so happy that Palm told him right away that there's nothing bad to be a decent and good person who see good in other people. This is actually really precious thing, and we definitely need more that kind of people. But yeah, that's unfortunately cruel reality, that kind of people are treated terribly, and really often people using them. But yeah, no matter what, like I said, we need that kind of people. And this situation when Nueng's mom got so hurt like his father before, it was so sad scene, and I was so scary back then, and I remember that I cried so much during the scene, and everything was so fast, and it was so sad to see Nueng, who was traumatized. He was devastated after this, and that he was blaming himself that he left his mom. And it was one of few scenes when I was so mad at Palm's father that he put Palm in such a danger, because he should have normal teenage life. He should deal with teenage problems, not deal with something like this. He shouldn't be in such a big danger. And yes, he behaved perfectly in the situation. He stuck to the plan, he knew what to do, he was very calm, and he was a great supporter for Nueng, but it doesn't change the fact that he should never ever be in that kind of situation in the first place. And oh my god, this scene with those gangsters, I felt so bad for both Nueng and Palm. Well, for Palm from obvious reasons, of course, but from Nueng because we could see how traumatized he still was after his father, and how scared he was when he saw guns. And I just love this next scene when he came to those gangsters and give them money, because even if he was scared of them, he didn't show it. And we could see how much he changed during this journey, and it was really devastating for me that he need to become so mature and so serious and almost emotionless, which is terrible. And okay, if someone have that kind of personality, there's nothing wrong with this, but he didn't have a choice. He need to become like this, and that was a problematic part. And the scene when those guys hurt Palm's mom and she stopped being there, It was such a heartbreaking scene, and it was probably one of the most devastating scenes in this whole drama. And seeing Nueng and Palm, who were so devastated, and especially Nueng, who was so traumatized again, and he started to believe that he's the reason why everything is going on and why this happened. And also when he realized that Palm's mom is not there anymore, and his face, it was so hard to see. And also Palm, who again, he impressed me so much that he was so calm, and he still just focused on what he need to do, how to help Nueng, and how to keep them safe. That was really impressive. And in general, this little moment, because this scene was very fast, and I'm really happy that they didn't make it longer and more dramatic, but we need to process everything as fast as Palm and Nueng, which was really good, and it made me even more scared and even more sad actually. And when this moment when Palm realized that his mom is not there anymore, and that he did those guys the same what they did to his mom, and this whole realization on his face, seriously, pondphuwin did such a great job in the scene. And I already praised Phuwin, and again, he was amazing. Like I said, he's perfect for us, Nueng, but Pond also did such a great job with Palm, because Palm's character also wasn't easy to play, and in this scene he really showed that he's really, really good actor. And yeah, he deserved for huge applause, definitely. And the scene later when they were on this cliff, and when Palm pushed Nueng, it was totally understandable. And even if he didn't want to see Nueng anymore, it also would be understandable. But I was so shocked how fast he reflected himself, and he realized what he had done, and he understood that he doesn't want to hurt Nueng, and he doesn't want to lose him. It was such a mature behavior, and seriously, both of them never stopped impressed me at that point. And when later they decided to yell at each other, and this one moment when Nueng said out loud that everything bad is happening because of him, it really broke my heart. And I repeat it again, no one ever should feel that way, and especially such a young person who's still growing up and who's still learning how everything is work like. And I was so pissed on this uncle that he did all of this, and he destroyed so many people's life, and for what? For a piece of power and more money? Seriously? It was horrible. And yeah, I hated this uncle in this scene probably the most. And the scene in the hotel later, and Nueng, who tried to be stronger this time, even if he also was devastated, and seeing both of them in this condition was so heartbreaking. And I had no idea how pondphuwin did it in the scene, but they looked much mature, and even their behavior since that moment was like, I don't know, they skipped 10 years of their life or something like this. And still, I have no idea how they have done this, but it was incredible. And it was so heartbreaking, and especially when I think about it, that they didn't even graduate high school yet, and they need to deal with something like this. And even much older people had a huge problem to deal with situation like they had, but they did such a good job. And seriously, yeah, like I said, I was so much into this story, and now again when I think about it, this is just horrible, and I feel so sorry for both of them. And in general, everything what happened in this hotel, this bathtub scene, and also the scene when they were lying in the bed and Nueng said that Palm's life would be much happier if he didn't met him. And even if Palm would feel that way, it would be totally understandable. Many people will react that way, that they would be mad on Nueng and they will blame him. And again, that would be understandable. But Palm still looked at Nueng with such a huge love, and he still was happy that he met Nueng. Seriously, I was so impressed. And when Nueng wanted to be this time the person who will protect them, and when he decided that he will be the strong one now, and he will come back and he will deal with his uncle, I was so proud of him. And seriously, they were such an impressive young people. And when Nueng decided to left Palm, it was so heartbreaking, but on the same time I understood both of them, because Nueng knew that he can't have that kind of weakness, and he need to deal with his uncle on his own. And if he will come back with Palm, and his uncle will understand how important Palm is for him, he will use Palm against Nueng. And Nueng couldn't do this at this point. So I totally understand why he decided to make it that way, but at the same time I totally understand Palm, because he left totally alone at that time because his father was arrested and Nueng was the only person who still was there, and you know, probably because of his love to Nueng, he didn't go crazy after all of this. So I totally understand that he decided to come back to Nueng no matter what. But yeah, there were no good solution in the situation, and again, nothing would even happen if this stupid uncle would just accept what he had, and if he really needed to have more money, then just work on this and that's it. But yeah, better is to destroy everyone's life, right? And this whole scene when he came back to his hotel, and you know, his entry when he was walking on the stairs, and this power which just emanated from him, and his posture, his body language, everything was just so magnificent, and I was so proud of him that he finally decided to come back and deal with his uncle and end this case. And later also the scene when he met with his uncle and he told him that he doesn't need him anymore. Seriously, I was so proud, but at the same time I was so sad, because still we need to remember that he was like 17, 19, something like this, and he should never gone through something like that. And also later when he came and visit his mom in the hospital, and you know, even if he wore those business suit and he looked like a businessman and mature person, still it doesn't change the fact that he was very young. And when he was in the scene, finally he looked on his age, and finally he behaved like he was on his age, and you know, he still needed his mom to help him and to get this knowledge how to run those businesses. And you know, I'm pretty sure that his parents already showed him and told him many stuff about what they're doing and how to deal that kind of businesses, because this is very normal in that kind of families, that you're growing up and you just getting those knowledge naturally. But it's different when you just have theoretically this knowledge, and later when you need to use it, especially when you need to do this on your own without someone who will look at you and will be like your mentor, who already have experience and knowledge. But he did something really wise, because he let those people who already know those projects help him and advise him, and I was really proud of him that he wasn't scared to admit that he need their help, and he treated them as equal and with respect, and this is super important in business relations. And I was really impressed how good his parents raised him, because not only that he was a good person, but he was also a very wise one, and I was shocked how good he was dealing with the situation, even if, let's be honest, for many of his peers it would be really hard. And the scene after Nueng came back to school and he talked with Chopper, I loved this scene so much. And you know, they were very close earlier, they were friends, and I was so worried after the scene what's gonna happen with their bond. But fortunately it stayed like this, even if Nueng wasn't sure if Chopper actually is on his side. But I just loved the scene, and perspective was just amazing, because when we look at the scene, it looked like they were on two opposite sides, like Nueng saw this at that moment, because from one side we had Nueng, who looked more mature, he was all in black and he was with his bodyguards, and from the other side we had Chopper, who looked younger with his school uniform, and he was completely alone. And also colors that they wore, because Nueng had this black hoodie on his school uniform, and because of this he looked like he was all in black, which can symbolize how dark his life became after everything what he gone through. And from the other side, Chopper, who had his school uniform, which was white, and maybe it could show that he had pure intention towards Nueng. And yeah, like I said, I just love the scene. And when it comes to how well made those scenes were, then this is probably my favorite scene. And seriously, this drama was magnificent, and it was so well made on so many levels, and I just love it. And you know, seeing them like this was really heartbreaking, because from one side Nueng, who was so devastated already, who was so tired, and who put this serious face, and who need to behave like he doesn't care about anything and he need to be strong. And from the other side, Chopper, who was so happy to see his cousin, and he was so relieved that he's fine and he's not hurt, because he still didn't know everything what happened to him. And later when he realized that Nueng doesn't trust him anymore, and maybe he's even mad at him, and when he started to be so sad and also scared, because he knew what his father is capable of, Yeah, that was, like I said, I love the scene, but at the same time it was so devastating for me, and I was crying so much because I was so worried what's gonna happen with them after the scene. But I knew that Nick is a smart guy, and when he will look at this from a different perspective, and without all those emotions, just objectively, he will see that Chopper never was his enemy, and he never even wanted to be, and he always was on his side. And I hope so that he realized that still Chopper is on his side, and fortunately he was. And they had such a great bond, and it would be such a huge waste if they would lost it. And also the scene when Nick was talking with Phum, I was so impressed by him because he doesn't need to forgive Phum. If he didn't want to do this, he had all rights to do this because Phum was terrible person for him and he did horrible things. But he decided to forgive him, and I was so proud of him. And still, even if he changed and he was more mature than he was before, and he put this mask and the serious face, under this he still was the same Ning who was pure and who believed in other people and who saw good in them. And that was so precious, and I was so proud of him that he decided to forgive Phum. And it was another scene when we could see how huge difference is between Ning and other people in his age and his friends and that kind of stuff. Because when Ning and Palm go through all this hell and they saw and experienced stuff which just changed them in the way that they can take it back. They can't come back to being who they were. But for the other ones, nothing changed. They still were going to school, they still had daily problems, and they still were teenagers, how they should be, the same as Palm and Ning. They never should go through what they had to. And Phum showed it so well because he was behaving like a kid who had no idea what's going on, who was worried about his parents, and who wanted to do everything to get back this feeling of safety, which was completely normal. But yeah, Ning, he behaved like an adult person, and that was really sad for me. But even if I wasn't a big fan of Phum, I actually didn't like him then, I felt so sorry for him. But I like that he apologized, and he started to see everything from different perspective. And even if he couldn't take it back what he had done, he could change from this point, and I cross my fingers so much for him to change. And third scene after his comeback and when he was talking with some other teenager was the scene when he was talking with Ben. And like I said, I just love perspective, and all those three scenes with Chopper, with Phum and Ben, they were theoretically very similar, but at the same time they were completely different. And when he was talking with Ben, it wasn't about power, and we couldn't see this power factor in the scene because, with Chopper that was very clear that Ning was the person with power. With Phum also, especially this begging part. But with Ben, they were talking as equals. They were talking as two teenagers who used to be in love, and Ning even was in his school uniform, and he looked like a typical teenager who he was. So, like I said, we didn't have this power factor here. And again, I think that it was, like I already mentioned, that for Ning, Ben was probably this normality factor, and maybe he always treated Ben on differently, and maybe he was in different level than other people in his age. So maybe that's why the scene looked like this. And when they were talking with each other, this conversation could happen even way before, and before all of those bad things happened. But those two others couldn't. They need to happen only after Ning changed. So that was another difference. So yeah, like I said, I love all three scenes here, and they were all incredible. And when Palm come back to Ning, I was so happy for them, but at the same time it was so sad to see Ning, who was so relieved and happy at the same time, but he was also so scared, and especially when he said that as long Palm is with him, he's gonna die. It was devastating, and that he needs to feel like this was just terrible. And seriously, this uncle, I really have no words for him. And something which I really love in their love in their love story, that it wasn't about big things. It was so normal, and I know that it can sound weird, but their little touches, things that they did for each other, and very small things made what they had. And also that their relationship wasn't rushed. Yeah, I really love it, and that's why they're one of my favorite love story. I'm not saying about this whole story and everything will happen, but just as this romance part, I really like it, and yeah, it's definitely one of my favorite ones. And I really like Nick's relationship with his mom, and we could see how much they love each other and how much they care about each other. And I feel like on the beginning he was comfortable only with her, and we could see him smiling only when he was with her, and he had this carefree and sparkle eyes, and that was so nice to see. But there was one thing which I didn't like, that she was a little bit overprotective, and like I said already, she and her husband, they built a golden cage for Nueng. And for example, after everything was going on, when she had this accident, she should tell him what exactly going on, because he wasn't a little kid anymore. And he was very smart, and he was so anxious about everything after what happened with his dad. So she should tell him when something went wrong, not just tell him that she will care about it and that's it. And I really like that he stand up for himself, and he told her how he felt about it, and that from one side they treated him like a little kid, and from the other side they were preparing him to run his father's business one day. So it was illogical, and yeah, that was the only thing that I didn't like about her, actually. And even if she was a little bit overprotective, then she was a great mom. And I loved her so much in the scene when she was talking with Nueng, and she told him that yes, she cared about what he likes, how he likes, and that kind of stuff, but the most important for her is seeing him happy, and this is what every single parent should do. And additionally, she said that he's their family pride, and this is so important for teenagers and for kids to hear something like this from their parents, and unfortunately many parents forgetting about it. But I felt so sorry for her when she said that she's disappointed in herself, that she didn't pay enough attention to Nueng, that she felt insecure about telling her this. And this is like in My School President, and I already talked about this, that this is not actually their fault, but media and society saw people from LGBTQ plus community as some weirdos for so many years, that even if someone have great parents who really care about them, and even if people have a great bond with their parents, then still even that kind of people are probably really worried about telling their parents, and they worried that their parents are not gonna react the way how they want. So yeah, I don't think that is always parents' fault. Like in this case, I know that Nueng probably knew that he can't tell her about it, but still. But here it was a little bit different situation, actually, because Nueng also put a huge pressure on himself, and he really often thought that something is wrong or he's doing something wrong when there was no problem at all, but it was because of something else, and this is a totally different topic. And okay, there was another thing which I didn't like about her, and which made me a little bit angry at her, when she told Palm that he doesn't need to care about Nueng anymore and she will find some bodyguard for him. And I know that she probably didn't mean anything bad in here, and she wanted to just give him a choice to choose his own fate, but it didn't sound well the way how she told this. So yeah, it was a small thing maybe, but she said this in a very bad moment. So yeah, I was a little bit angry at her, but except these two things, I really like her, and I think we definitely need more that kind of parents in different productions and also in real life, but maybe a little less overprotective. And like I already said, I wasn't a big fan of Palm's father. Okay, I don't like him, and I was so mad at him that he put Palm in that kind of terrible situation and put him in danger. And I already talked about this, but I also felt really sorry for him, that he looked at himself and he felt like he's somehow worse than Nueng's family and in general rich people. And every single time when I see people like him, I feel really sorry for them. And Nueng's mother, Nueng, and I'm sure that Nueng's father also will keep reminding him that he's like a family for them, and he is a part of family. But yeah, that was very sad that he looked at himself like he's worse, and he didn't want to believe them that they actually treat him like this. And I know that in many cultures we still can see this relic of hierarchical societies, like with aristocracy, middle class, servants, and that kind of thing. But it's still surprising me that even nowadays, when all cultures mixing so much, then still in many places people want to stick to those traditions so much. And okay, when it comes to traditions, maybe what I will say it's controversial, but I think that traditions are really good, and it's really good to keep your traditions and keep them alive and to celebrate them. But I always think a lot, and it's kind of a problem for me every single time when I see that some traditions hurting someone, and I just don't know if this is really worth it to keep some traditions which actually can make someone suffer in the name of just keeping this. I don't know, I have very mixed feelings about it, but I'm not here to change anything, I'm not here to judge anything. This is simply not my business, but yeah, this is just my thoughts. And I also wasn't a big fan of Palm's mother, but she pointed out a few very important things. First of all, like I already said, Palm's father should never ever put him in that kind of danger, and Nueng's family should just hire real bodyguards who know what they're going to do and who train in this, not some teenage boy who had no experience in this field and to put him in such a danger. And also, like Mackie said earlier and Nick also said, Palm should take care about himself. There's nothing bad about it, and if he will think about himself and his safety and that kind of stuff, it won't be something bad in this, and it won't mean that he loves Nueng less or something like this. But no matter what, I just couldn't look at her as a mother. She behaved more like big sister or something like this, and if I would look at her as a big sister, then she would be great and I would like her. But as a mother, I hate her so much because she hurt Palm so much, and she did something terrible to him, because if I remember correctly, he was pretty big when she left them, and he still remembered her, because if he would be little then maybe it would be easier, but still he lived with this thought that his mother left him. And also when she said why she did it, her reasons were so terrible, and at least she realized that she was selfish and she apologized him, because that kind of people really often don't even see problem in themselves. But still, it doesn't change the fact that she did something horrible. And this is why I always have problem with the kind of people like her, because okay, maybe I'm weird, but I think that people should think very carefully first if they even can handle to have a kid, and if they would be good parents, and if they would have a time for this, and think about it first before they bring kid to this world. Because there's so many people who didn't even think about it. They didn't even decide to be a parent. They start to have a kid and they later hate this kid and do terrible stuff to them because they wasn't responsible enough, and they treating those kids terrible. And this is never kids' fault. Kids weren't the ones who want to be in this world. Their parents bring them here and they should be responsible for them and do their job. And I know that being a parent is a very hard job, and that's why I think not everyone should be one, because it's just don't fit to everyone, because not everyone is mature enough and not everyone will handle this. And okay, now let's talk a little bit about Uncle Kid, because how you can see for whole this video probably, I just hated this guy and he was so disgusting for me. And it's still funny that he was pretending like he cared about Nueng when he didn't even do this properly, and in general that he behaved like he's so smart and like he's the best in everything when he couldn't do anything actually. And it's still super funny for me that he wanted to run their business when he couldn't even speak Chinese. And if I understand correctly, they had many Chinese speaking business partners, so it was very needed skill in to run their businesses. So how he wanted to do this when he couldn't even speak Chinese. But yeah, it was one of the few things. And in general, I really like that they created him as a very disgusting person and one of the worst kind of parents, and very evil and weak one, because they could create him as that kind of bad person who's still smart and charismatic and for who people will fall, and they wouldn't see how bad he is. Unfortunately, but it's happening a lot. And I really hope so there wasn't anyone who actually liked this character, but I saw people who fell for creeps and the worst kind of human beings, so I wouldn't be surprised at this point actually. But he was so disgusting person for me and so terrible, and what he'd have done to Nueng was horrible. And I will never understand that kind of people who saw some kid how they growing up, and they were seriously growing up on their eyes. They were experiencing this, and you know, theoretically they could even treat this kid as their own kid, and later they do such a terrible stuff to those kids. This is insane for me, but yeah, what can I expect from someone who was ready to do exactly the same thing to his own kid also? And the way how he was treating Chopper was just unacceptable, and I still surprised that Chopper grew up as such a nice person and such a good one with that kind of monster as a father. Because, you know, it would be really easy if this monster will create another monster, but somehow Chopper was totally the opposite of his father, fortunately. And yeah, Chopper was definitely my favorite character in this whole drama, and I love him so much. He was so kind, he was polite and thoughtful, and in general he was such a good character. But he reminds me so much of Vigas from Kinpursh, and his relation with his father was definitely too similar, and I was worried about him so much during this whole drama that there will be some point when he will turn out to be his father. But fortunately he didn't end like Vigas, that he wasn't even worse than his father. Fortunately, you have no idea how relieved I was when I finished this drama and Chopper didn't change at all during whole this story. And I really like that even if he loved Ben, he never tried to destroy his relationship with Nueng, and he was really happy for them. And you know, there were so many moments when he could turn out into his father, but he never did it. And I just love this about him, that he always tried to be a good person, even if it was so easy for him to turn out into his father, because environment when he were growing up, because of his father, was toxic and so cruel. So it would be so easy for him to turn out into another beast, but he never did it. And seriously, I was so proud of him because of this. And I felt so sorry for Chopper in the scene when Ben was yelling at him after he found out that Chopper's dad was behind everything what happened to Nueng's family. And I was really mad at Ben in this scene, because Chopper couldn't do anything actually. And you know, it wasn't like he was just sitting there and look at it. When he found out, he tried to do everything to find this last piece of empathy in his father, and he tried his best to stop him, but he couldn't do anything actually. He was totally powerless. And you know, okay, maybe Ben didn't know his situation, which is completely understandable, but he should know, at least from his own experience, that kids can't do anything about their parents, and if their parents want to do something bad, they will do this, and kids can't do anything about it. And I was really mad at Ben that he even blackmailed Chopper in this scene. And it was really sad for me, because Chopper already was terrified about Nueng, and later he was also terrified about Ben when he found out that Ben knows a lot, because he knew what his father is capable of, and that make Ben disappear won't be anything special for him. And you know, Chopper was so terrified about it, and we could see when he was holding Ben so tightly, when he tried to stop him, that he's really desperate to do everything what he could to not let Ben do anything about it, because he knew that it can end terribly for Ben. And I really don't get that kind of people like Ben in this situation, that they want to play hero so badly that they don't even think about consequences. They had no idea how dangerous their situation actually is, and they just want to do something. They have no idea what actually they want to do, but they want to do without any plan or anything. This is just stupid. This is not being a hero, or this is not brave. This is just stupid. And seriously, I was so sad when it comes to Chopper, and also what he needs to go through during whole this story. And the scene when Chopper come to his father after he confronted with Nueng, and he asked him, he doesn't even ask him, he begged him to finally leave Nueng alone. It was so heartbreaking for me that he even need to do this, but in this moment, his father still decided to make him even more terrified, and he started asking about Ben to show him that he can hurt Ben if he will do anything. And seriously, it was so heartbreaking for me with what Chopper needs to do with it, because you know, I just can't imagine how hard it had to be for him. He found out that his father is a terrible monster. His uncle died. His aunt was in coma, his cousin disappeared, and when he come back he treated him like he hated him and he's his enemy. And also his lover tried to push him to do something which will be dangerous for both of them and for more people even. And after all of this, he still decided to help his cousin, and you know, lost this last pieces of normality and his feel of safetyness that he had maybe and he needed as a teenager. that was really heartbreaking, but also I was really impressed, and seriously, for him also I felt so sorry. And also the scene when he was pointing his gun to his dad because he thought that maybe this is gonna work and it will stop him, but of course not. And when his father called him coward, I was so frustrated. I remember that I was yelling at the screen so much because I was so mad. Because no, he did it because he was a good person and he wanted to help, at least that way, because he really had no what to do. And also later when he tried to help Nueng and Palm when his dad tried to hurt them, it was really heartbreaking for me to see, and his look when he realized what he had done, and I was so mad that he also was pushed to do something like this. And also later when this police came and they hurt his dad, he was so scared. And you know, when he did it to his dad, he probably pointing in the place when he knew that it's not gonna hurt his dad that badly, and it's gonna hurt him, but it's not gonna do something serious to him. But when police came, they actually could hurt him very badly, and he knew about this, and he looked like just a scared kid who he actually was, because like I said, he tried to do everything, but he probably didn't even know what he's doing, and that was really devastating. And I think that Pat deserved for a huge applause for this character. And you know, Chopper was a very complex character, and I'm so happy that Pat got this opportunity to play such a challenging role. And I think that it was his best role, because okay, now I'm watching him in Dangerous Romance when he's again is with Shimon and they're playing a couple, and yes, he as Kang is really good, but still I think that Chopper was his best role, and it was the role when he really could showed how good actor he is. And yeah, I'm super proud of him, and I think that he deserves a huge applause for this role. And I just love Nueng and Chopper relationship. They had such a beautiful bond, and I was so happy that it wasn't destroyed because of the stupid uncle. And I like that on the beginning we could see how much Chopper cared about Nueng from a distance, and Nueng probably didn't even know about this. And you know, for example, the scene when Chopper came to Ben to ask him if he wanted to be close with Nueng because he likes him or he just wanted something from him. And yes, he probably also was jealous, but from Ben's perspective it could sound offensive, but I think that Chopper didn't mean anything bad here. He just wanted to check if Ben really wanted to hanging out with Nueng, or he just want to use him like many people before. And I just love the scene in the hospital, and I think it was a very important scene for both of them, and it was the scene when they actually reunited finally. I was crying so badly during the scene, and seeing Chopper who was apologizing Nueng so much, and you know, who felt like it was his fault and he was the one who was guilty there. It was really heartbreaking for me, and it was devastating also. But I really like that Nueng told him that it wasn't his fault, and he know that Chopper is a good person and that he's nothing like his father. And you know, this is something what Chopper really probably needed at that time, and in general that he needed to hear it, because probably since he was little it was haunting him that one day he will turn out into his father. And we could see for all this drama that he was trying to do everything to not end like his father. But you know, when he heard something like this from Nueng, it was probably even more meaningful for him. And yeah, I just love that they start being close again, and yeah, it was so nice to see them like this. And I really cross my fingers so much that in this Never Let Me Go universe he will still be close with Nueng, and Nueng's mom will care about him because he will left totally alone after this. And you know that Nueng and her mother will take care about him, and both of them will be happy, because like I said, Nueng and Chopper were my favorite characters here. And I remember that I was so suspicious when it comes to Ben at the beginning, because I wasn't sure if he actually wanted to be friends with Nueng or he's one of his bullies. And also I was a little bit worried that maybe Ben will be this part of the story when Chopper turns out to be his father, but fortunately he didn't. And still, when I think about Ben and Chopper, I have very mixed feelings, because okay, Chopper was very happy with him, and when he was happy I was happy also, but I really didn't like that Ben was blackmailing him. And you know, he did it once, and I'm really worried that he will do this again. And I know that we're not gonna see those characters again, but yeah, you know, I'm just thinking. Okay, theoretically Ben understood that he was wrong, but still I'm worried, and I would just prefer someone who will be very patient, and someone really good, polite, and who will take care about Chopper and showed him good love, and not someone who's gonna treat him like his dad. And okay, I'm not saying that Ben is another monster and he's a terrible person, because no, he was warm, kind and good person, but yeah, this one moment really makes me worried about their relationship. And I know that we're not gonna see them again, but yeah, like I said, I was so much into this story and I cared about those characters so much, especially about Chopper for some reason. And when it comes to Chopper and Nueng, like I said, they're my favorite characters, and I'm not that worried about Nueng and his future, because I know that he had many people who love him and that since now it will be better for him. But yeah, my poor Chopper. And you know, sometimes we have that kind of characters that when we met them, they stay with us for a long time, and no matter how much time passed, then still we're thinking about those characters, they still important for us. And Chopper is definitely that kind of character for me, and I still have no idea why, but I loved this character so much and I cared about him so much, and he was like a little brother for me or something like this. And yeah, still I'm coming back to this character from time to time, and I think about him. And yeah, I would love to see what happened with this character later, but of course we're not gonna see this. But yeah, it would be really nice. And maybe I will surprise you, but I really like Ben and Nueng together, and I know that Nueng was very clear when he talked with Palm that he didn't like Ben actually, but I think that he had some feelings for him, and I'm really happy that Ben was a part of Nueng's life. And you know, he was the first person who saw something which people never saw before in Nueng. He saw how valuable he is and that he's a good person, and he helped him open himself for new people, new experiences. And you know, he showed him that he's not a weirdo, he's not a creep, he's a really good person, and someone with who people want to spend time with who people want to be close. And yeah, that's why I think that Ben was actually important part in Nueng's life, and that's why I really like that they were a couple and that they were friends. And even if their story ended bad, then still I really like that they were together. And when they were together, we could see how different their life actually was and how different in general Nueng's life was, because you know, since his incident with his dad, he were living in constant fear with his mom, and his life become very dark. He need to go so major after this. But Ben was just a typical teenager, and you know, especially in the scene when they were talking and Ben starts saying that he can be Nueng's bodyguard. For Ben, it was something very innocent, and he had no idea how dangerous actually it is. And you know, he had no idea how serious the situation is, and it was totally understandable. He never was on Nueng's place, and he had no idea how it is to be in this place. But in this scene we could see how huge gap was between them. But I really like their scenes together, and in general when they were together we could see that Nueng was just a teenager, and you know, he was smiling a lot when he was with Ben. He was more comfortable with him, and it was so nice to see him like this, not only this very serious and sad version of him, which okay, it wasn't nothing bad in this. I don't want to make it sound bad, but he shouldn't be like this. He should be just a normal, carefree teenager. And even if he would have some problems, then he should have normal problems like other people in his age, not that kind of terrible ones. And that's why I really like to see scenes with them. And it was obvious that they're not gonna be together for a long time, but still I think it was very important part in Nueng's life, and it helped him a lot. And what happened to Ben and Nueng was so sad, and I will never understand why people like this principal and and that kind of people can be teachers and work with teenagers and kids, because you know, when they're so close-minded, they will push this mindset further and it will create many damage. And okay, when that kind of people work in religious school, I don't care about it. You know, religious school are completely different, but when we're talking about regular school, then I think that kind of people, when they show that they like this, they should automatically lose their ability to work with kids and never be teacher again. And of course they should be kicked out from the school, because like I said, they can make a huge damage to those young people. She said that what they did was inappropriate. How? I mean, okay, if this school had that kind of rule that you can't kiss, holding hands, and you know, in general do anything which couples do in school, then fine, it was inappropriate, it was even against rules. I know that some schools have that kind of rules, but if not, then they didn't do anything wrong, and I really don't know why they saw problem in them. And it was ridiculous for me that Nueng, who was a person who was still growing up, he was much more mature than those adults, and he knew what to do and where problem actually is and what they need to do in this situation, but not them. But yeah, this is unfortunately very common problem that adults don't listen to teenagers, even if really often they knew this word better, and they have very interesting thoughts. But yeah, many adults think that they the best, they knew everything the best, and they don't agree with all changing that word has, and they don't want to change, which is pretty sad actually. But yeah, this is a sad reality. And also I felt really sorry for Ben, that he need to listen all those terrible stuff that his father said in the scene, and in general that he need to grow up with such a terrible parent. And fortunately he didn't turn out into a copy of his father, but still I feel really sorry for him. And I remember that many people were so mad at Ben that he didn't do anything, but okay, it will sound terrible probably, but he need to think about himself and his safety first at this moment. And that's why I'm not surprised that he reacted like this. I mean, that he didn't react at all, and he were just sitting there and do nothing. And like I said already, I feel so sorry for Nueng because it really broke him, but I totally understand Ben, and I think he didn't do anything wrong here actually. He just tried to keep himself safe. And I really didn't like Phum, but at the same time I felt sorry for him. And when I saw my notes from almost last year when I was watching this drama when it was on air, and I saw that I probably hated this guy, but now when I look at it from, you know, different perspective a little bit, and without all those emotions that I had back then, and more objectively, then I can't hate him. But yeah, I definitely didn't like him. But every single time when I see such young people whose mind is already so rotten because of their family and because of their environment, it's really terrifying for me. And fortunately, when they're still so young, there is still a hope that you can help them understand that they're wrong, or they can understand it on their own, which is not so easy and it's not that common. But fortunately he understood it on his own. But yeah, there's still some hope. But if they're not gonna understand it and no one's gonna help them, then they will grow up as very dangerous people. And yeah, every single time when I see something like this, it's just terrifying for me. And there was this one scene when he hit Palm with this chair, and I was so terrified during the scene. And he could actually Palm, and I was so shocked that he didn't get any punishment actually. I mean, okay, they were suspended, right? But I think it was that dangerous that they should call for police and he should have a trial, because like I said, he actually could unalive Palm, which was crazy that they didn't do anything about it. But yeah, unfortunately this is very common that parents, teachers, principals, and people who should do something and whose work is to do something, they're not doing anything, and they think that they're just teasing each other, when no, this is bullying, and bullying is very dangerous. And even if it's not dangerous, then still they should stop it because it's just bad. And the last character about who I want to talk something, it will be just a little, but I just love Mackie. She was such a funny and cute character, and like I said, I really like her friendship with Palm, and I just need to talk about this one scene with them, because when she met Nueng and Palm after they disappeared, and she talked with Palm, I just love when she told him that she used to have a crush on him, and later when she saw the way how Palm looked at Nueng, she understood that she has no chance, and she decided to be friends with him, and that she had very bright personality, and that's why people misunderstood that she was flirting with him. And yeah, that was just brilliant. So yeah guys, you know what to do. When someone turns you down, then tell them that they just misunderstand you and you didn't flirt with them, we just have bright personality. And yeah, finally we come to the point that we all was waiting probably, to conclusion. And you're probably tired, I'm tired, I was recording this almost whole day, but yeah, finally we can come to conclusion. And like I said already, this drama was a masterpiece. Everything, coloring, light, camera work, music, acting, story, seriously everything was on the highest level. And this is one of that kind of drama when GMMTV set bar really high when it comes to dramas. And I think that we'll see many such a good ones in the future, or at least I hope so. And still I'm really shocked how healthy and how good love story we had here. And even if Nueng and Palm, they were very young, they had very good and healthy idea about relationships, and I like that no matter what kind of hard things come to them and they need to face them, they always talk with each other. And even if they had some problems or they felt like they are a burden for the other one, still they talk about it, they share their perspective, and they try to fix it somehow. That's very important. And yeah, like I said, I love their love story, even, and in general this whole drama, even if it was super sad and I was really anxious, especially that I was really worried about all this drama if they will actually end together, because they will coming back with this story about those lovers who see each other only once per year. So yeah, I was super anxious, but I like that kind of stories. And I know that it sounds weird, but I like that kind of bitter stories which are very realistic and you know, which make you think a lot about different stuff. So yeah, it was a perfect show for me. And yeah, like I said already, I felt really connected with those characters. I cared about them so much. I felt like I was the part of this universe and like I actually was there with them and I was going through the same thing as them. And this drama definitely have a special place in my heart, and after so much time, I still coming back to this. I thinking about it from time to time. Sometimes I'm watching fun movies from this drama because I want to meet those characters again. I want to come back to this universe, even if it was really sad for me and even depressing a little bit. Then still, I really love it, and still I think that it was one of the most beautiful shows from GMMTV, right after Vice Versa, A Thousand Stars, and Moonlight Chicken. And yeah, like I said already, I definitely highly recommend this drama. And yeah, that's all I want to say about this drama. Now it's your turn. Please tell me in the comment section what do you think about this drama, who was your favorite character or characters, and you know, just share your thoughts. I'm really curious to find out what you think. And thank you so much for spending your precious time with me today. Please remember to take care about yourself, smile a lot, and see you in the next video. Bye bye!